You are listening to the Let Me Overthink About It podcast, where I dive into a series of topics that occupy my anxious mind. I'm Sam Madore, overthinker extraordinaire. This week, I'm overthinking about storytelling with Sharon Ishimwe. Like many of the folks that I interview, Sharon wears a lot of hats. She is the executive director of MacPhee Center. She has just produced her very first feature film, and she is first and foremost a storyteller. I hope you enjoy our chat as much as I did. Here it is. I am here with Sharon Ishimwe. Hey, Sharon.
Hey, Sam.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right.
This is one of my few episodes where I'm on location. I'm going to call it on location because I often do Zoom or I'll do it in person at my home, literally in my basement. So you can count your lucky stars that I didn't invite you to come into the dungeon.
I would love that. I really would have that over Zoom any day.
So we met about a year and a half ago, briefly, and I followed your journey on LinkedIn. I'm a bit of a stalker. Here's why we're having this conversation. Right. Because, and maybe just give us a little bit of a background, because I met you through the MacPhee Center here in Halifax. But since then, you had taken sort of a sabbatical. So maybe give us an idea of how that transpired.
I actually took the sabbatical before MacPhee Center.
You did?
Yes. The MacPhee Center brought me back into work. I was still on my sabbatical when they reached out with this wonderful opportunity. And I'm still at the MacPhee Center.
See, I wasn't stalking you well enough.
You were not. You were not. But you know what? To make you feel better about the stalking, I was at a meeting recently, and somebody told me, Sharon, I've been looking at your LinkedIn. So I've looked at your LinkedIn so many times because every time I'm talking to a colleague at work or whatever, I want to show them your dress. And so I open your account and show them a dress that I wore to the premiere. But anyway.
It is an amazing dress. I know the dress. We're going to have to, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching on YouTube, we're going to show a clip of that dress on YouTube because it is a beautiful dress. I love it.
There's a whole story around the dress, but we'll keep that for next time.
I love that. But just to go back to it, so that makes way more sense now because the sabbatical was around doing a film, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, how in the world did she take a sabbatical, put this whole film together, and have it released now? But that way makes way more sense now that it was before you worked at MacPhee.
Oh, you're gonna be surprised.
Look, I'm just gonna let you do the talking. I'll stop trying to fill in the blank.
The sabbatical was before MacPhee Center.
Yeah.
And I came to the MacPhee Center, worked for about 1.5 years.
Okay.
And last year, 2023, around June, I was in Uganda. I had gone away on vacation, plus some remote working, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
And about 3 days before I returned, I was in this Uber. And it turned out the Uber driver had been a filmmaker, and he decided to take a break because he didn't have any new ideas. He told me he wanted to take a 10-year break, and this was year 7 for him.
Yeah.
So I told him, you know what, if I were to be a filmmaker, my first film would be about Christmas in Uganda. He turns around and he goes like, that's original, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
How can a Christmas film be original? I think we have way too many already out there in the world. But there wasn't any made in Uganda by Ugandans and talking about the real, authentic Ugandan Christmas when Christmas was still good. I have to add that because I think it's not that good anymore, and it's a lot of nostalgia around the good old days.
Yes.
So that was I met him on a Wednesday. I was coming back to Canada on July the 2nd, which was a Sunday. I agreed to meet with him for an hour. We had coffee for an hour, and that was it. That was the beginning of the making of this film.
Okay, wait. I need to just take a beat with that because that is incredible. That it was you're just in an Uber, like just having a casual conversation with someone, and then holy crap, I love that. I didn't realize that.
And then that happened. I'm a storyteller. So my background is communications. But I thought that I would tell stories mostly through public speaking and writing.
Yeah.
Didn't know that film would be the thing. I have like directed films that tell stories of organizations that I work with.
Sure.
But I haven't gone out there to create a movie, of all things. So yeah, so July the 2nd, that's when the decision is made to actually make this film happen.
Yeah.
And December 8th, the same year, we premiered the film.
Okay, so I was kind of right then.
Yeah.
You did do it in a heartbeat.
Yes.
That's amazing. What's the length?
2 hours.
Yeah, that's
2 hours. Yes. We wanted to keep it at 90 minutes, but we looked and couldn't find any more stuff to cut out.
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. It's so like a really, really good film. Again, we're just, working with people's nostalgia around Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, where did that idea come from? Was it like on the spot when the guy was saying he didn't have any creative ideas, or were you like, this is something I've been kind of noodling around with for a while?
So the story of Christmas in Uganda was something that I had been thinking about.
Yeah.
I don't want to tell sad stories, but I will.
Hey, listen to this podcast. I hate to break it to you, Sharon.
Sad stuff. Yeah. Yeah, but I've been avoiding talking about this for a while.
Okay.
But anyways, 2010, that December, we lost our mom. And she had been everything to our family. I'm the youngest, last one. In my family, 5.
Oh, wow.
2 brothers and 2 sisters. And my mom was my closest friend. The 2 of us were inseparable. So since then, I had been running away from Christmas. I would be anywhere, but with a family celebrating Christmas.
Yeah.
So there were moments when I would spend Christmas in places like China, because nobody celebrates Christmas there. And it's funny because the Chinese then would say, you not go home Christmas.
Right.
Because all of the Africans would be out of there. They go there as traders, go buy stuff, but no one's in China.
During that time.
During Christmas,
yeah.
Yes. Actually, there were times when my family thought, I was having Christmas with friends thought I was having Christmas with family, and I would be at my apartment. And then, actually, I came to Canada Christmas night. I landed here Christmas night, just another way to avoid celebrating Christmas. So I spent Christmas in the air, flying here.
Yeah.
So when I took the sabbatical, actually, I spent a bit of time in Uganda as well. And so that was the first time in so many years, 2021, that I spent Christmas with family. And there was nothing to write home about it. It wasn't nice at all. But to make matters worse, the next morning, my niece, who was about 4 years at the time, came to me and she said, Auntie Sharon, when is Christmas? Boxing Day.
Oh no. So clearly not having that same nostalgic impact that you remember.
Yeah. So in that moment, I realized that it wasn't just me who had lost that spirit, but my siblings as well. Yeah. And now it was transferred to their kids.
Another generation.
Yeah. So because we were not, we were depriving them of the joy of Christmas that we had growing up. And you see people struggling with, all kinds of mental health challenges. Right now, when I'm speaking about Uganda, but then you look at, things that used to give us joy, simple, inexpensive ways that we found happiness. And one of those things was just looking forward to Christmas. And right now, people want to go to Dubai for Christmas.
Right.
Like, why do you want to go to Dubai? And if you don't have the money to take yourself and your whole family, then you're going to have a really bad Christmas.
That's right.
So
that pressure.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to remind people, of course, do it for my nieces. Yeah. And my entire family, but also give the rest of Uganda the opportunity to re-experience that and hopefully try to recreate it in their lives right now. I think, for my nieces, things changed this Christmas because, of course, we were talking about the film and they went and watched the film at the premiere. And then on Christmas morning, they opened their gifts and they had so much candy and so much stuff. And they were like, can you go give the neighbors? And I was like, Yes, the parents were hesitant, but I was like, yeah, please go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
Because what nobody else was thinking about, I was like, they have started their own tradition,
Oh
their
man.
own Christmas tradition, which is, go out to the neighbors, knock on the gates and give the adults and the kids some candy, and come back and make them really happy.
Well, that's just, oh man, there's so much to unpack from all of that you just said.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back and start by just saying I appreciate what you're saying about losing your mom. I lost my mom as well in 2020, and I've talked about her a lot on this podcast. And we had a very similar relationship, also the baby of the family, baby of 3 girls, but and we were best friends. And I always find it like it takes me a minute to I always feel like I have to justify that in some way because I feel like it's like a weird thing. I'm using air quotes to say my mom was my best friend, but it's absolutely true. We have so much in common, and I've always felt like an old soul. And so I appreciate that. And it's so important and scary when you approach milestones like Christmas, for example, where it's like, how do I take mom created Christmas? Like that was her gift to us with every year. It was like she created that for us. So she was Christmas. She literally. And so to try to pull some of those traditions from her that she gave us every year was so important for me and my family too.
Yeah.
What are some of those?
Take time to heal, recover. I mean, at my apartment right now, or my house, I lived in both my house and an apartment or apartments here in Canada. And every holiday, whether it's Christmas or Thanksgiving or Easter, you will find my house packed with people. And my invitations will just call whether I know who lives here with our family, and I'll be like, come, please come. And if you know anybody who has nowhere to go, bring them as well. So I'll have friends, and then people are meeting for the first time in my house, and we just eat a lot of food and sing and dance, and nobody's asking why you're here, why you're not with family, because everyone there is kind of in the same situation. And it's people from all over the world and people from all across Canada. People from Vancouver who don't have family in Halifax.
And like you said, who can't afford maybe to go home or don't have the time or whatever to come home. I really love that. So that's a new tradition for you. That
it is. It has been a tradition for me now for a while. And it's, people start arriving at say 12, and then they're leaving at 11 p.m. Well, or when I lived in my house, stay the night. Some people would stay the night.
Oh, that's really lovely. So there's so much. So from the film perspective, I used to work for the Atlantic Film Festival, so I'm a little bit of a film nerd when it comes to local.
That's why you invited me.
I know. Trust me, and that's why I'm following that journey of yours so closely. Is how does it come from an idea into fruition? Because that can be very stressful. Like when it's like, okay, I have this idea in June, all of a sudden I'm planning on, or maybe it wasn't planned, but planning on having this out before Christmas. So how does that nugget turn into a film?
I think I had different motivations over the journey. So in the beginning, and I say this, I consider myself a storyteller. I told you, and I've been thinking about how I can make use of the voice that I have. Friends would tell me that I needed to write books because they enjoyed my writing. And then people would say, you really tell stories really nicely. You should tell stories some more. But then I moved to Canada and realized I do know a lot of things. I had to learn life afresh. And so I got silenced. And so right about last year, I started to feel like I was ready to start to speak more, to start to share more. And so this film was going to be my launching into storytelling in a way like I haven't done it before. But it was also me giving an opportunity to this filmmaker who had left the industry and needed a comeback. So for me, I'm launching, somebody else is having a comeback. Thirdly, we are giving Ugandans their own Christmas film, a film that they can come back to every year, so they don't have to watch Home Alone all the time, or whatever it is that
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing against either of those films.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. We are just adding more to the bucket.
Yeah.
So that was the motivation. Those three things were my
It probably
motivation
helped to have somebody else's story. I'm just thinking from my perspective, maybe you're not the same, but when it's like not just you, it's like nice to have that external, like, oh, well, it's this guy's film. He wants to make another film. So that kind of helps to push the motivation forward.
Do you know what? I actually had the motivation for like the whole country because everybody, like,
No pressure.
They were talking about Christmas way back, but they didn't know how to get back to it. It's like going like, oh, that was wonderful, but they didn't know how to do it. So that too helped. And I'll just to be clear, I knew like a few things that I wanted to see in the film.
Yeah.
Things that were the highlights for me. But what we did is that we found script writers. And I'm a writer, but I had never written film.
Oh gosh, it's a different beast.
And again, like working within a very short time frame.
Yeah.
So we found experienced script writers who worked on the script, and then went ahead to start to look for the crew and the cast.
Where did you shoot it, by the way? Was it in Uganda? Okay,
Yes,
that's what I thought.
We shot it in Uganda.
That's great.
And rehearsals happened, and then I flew back to Uganda for filming.
Yeah.
And so I go on set, and 2 days into filming, the actors start to say things like, "Oh, this, I think I'm gonna win an award for my role in this film." People fell in love with the film as we went, like more and more in love. I should say everybody who came on board came on board because they believed in that. And they wanted to be part of telling the story, right?
Because they're probably experiencing a lot of the same things you're talking about, where they wanted to bring it back for themselves.
Yeah. And I'm really good at hiding stuff that I worked on. And so a part of me, listen, I even struggle to look at things I wrote a week ago or 2 weeks ago because I just feel like I see things that need improvement.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
It's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I was like, well, if it's not a nice film, we can shelve it and nobody will see it.
Yeah.
But then we go into filming and the actors are saying, well, this could be the thing for me.
Yeah.
And now that becomes my motivation as well. How can I ensure that this is the best film that it can be?
Right.
So that all of these people who believed in it, but now are also building props based on it.
Yeah.
How can I make sure that they achieve all of those things? So the burden kept growing.
I was just going to say, how does that feel in your body? Like, does that feel like a lot of just pressure, or does it actually invigorate you? Or
it becomes purpose for me, and it becomes the drive. Yes, it becomes the drive. I turn all of that into drive, and if I were to be, because I could so easily give up on myself.
Yeah.
It's just about me. I could give up.
Totally.
But as we went on, now it was more people that I couldn't let down, but also I needed to put more money into it. For example, the budget that I thought we were going to work with in the beginning was so off. It couldn't even just cover post-production.
Right. Yeah, fair.
Right. So that became the drive. Then the media got wind of what was going on, and everybody was talking about it. I'm an introvert, so I need time to myself.
Yeah.
I need quiet time, and I can so easily withdraw from the world. But this film kept me active and in contact and in constant communication with people for a straight 6 months. I think that was one of my biggest challenges, because I had to, script writing, for example, we're meeting with the script writers via Zoom constantly. So I was talking to people, so much so that once we premiered, I think I hibernated like for a month. It's just now that I'm kind of coming back into the world.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot. Like, and you do need to consider it sort. And I don't make films, but I do events, and I consider it sort of that same idea. You're dealing with all of the vendors, and you're putting it all together, and then it's that big day. It happens, and then you crash. Right. So I see that as the same.
Yeah. You absolutely crash. I couldn't let myself crash before.
Exactly.
I had to like keep pushing.
Your adrenaline keeps you going though, and that excitement and that purpose, like you were talking about. Yeah. It's so great. And it's so nice. So the feedback after the fact, the goal was to, bring that nostalgia, bring Christmas back to Ugandans. Do you think that you were successful?
I think we were. So we had a sold out premiere. That's the place to start. And then we had 2 screenings after that, which were unplanned, because we thought it just would be the premiere. For me, was going to honor everybody who worked on the film and give them a wonderful red carpet premiere. And no, nothing.
Wear an awesome dress, all of that.
Wear a beautiful dress too, yes, and give them the premiere. But then people started to ask for extra screenings. The National Theatre wanted to book the screenings, and then another screening. But the thing that makes me believe, or makes it very clear that people love the film, is that there are people who watched all 3 screenings.
Oh, come on. That's so
my goal was to give Ugandans a film that they could watch every year.
Yes.
But they watched it 3 times in a span of like 2 weeks.
That's such, look, that is your sign, right? You don't need anybody to say anything else.
That's the sign. And, people who came for the first screening, maybe with just a friend or just themselves, brought more people to the next screening because they loved it so much. They wanted to share it with their friends. They wanted to share it with their elderly parents and with their kids. And that was very, very humbling. And it also reassured me and validated a decision that I had to make along the way, which was I'm making a film, but I live in Canada. And my perspective of the world is both Ugandan and Canadian. And I know a film that would be nice for Canadians, a film that Canadians, or that, if I may use the words Western world, a film that they would enjoy. I know what that looks like. So in the beginning, I was trying to create a film that was Ugandan, but that also would be appreciated by the rest of the world. And then I realized that I was making compromises. So I had to ask myself a difficult question. I had to make a decision, either continue to try to make a film that pleases everybody, or make a film that Ugandans would really enjoy. And I decided to make a film that Ugandans would really, really enjoy.
Good choice.
So I'm a little anxious about the rest of the world seeing it. But again, I have to honor the people I worked with. These are people who are professional actors, professional, crew members. If you look at, somebody told me actually, somebody here in Halifax was like, Sharon, I thought you were making like a high school type film project. But then I looked at all the people in the film and I was like, oh, this ain't no high school film project. So all the people that I work with are super talented, super skilled, award-winning filmmakers. So if I, because of my fear of sharing my own creations, hold it back, then I'm denying them the opportunity for their works to be seen by the rest of the world.
Oh man, there you go.
So I actually this week applied to a film festival.
I was just gonna
local.
Was it the Atlantic Film Festival?
No, it's the Mosaic.
Oh, that's
the Mosaic Film Festival, because that's coming in like month and a half or something like that. We had submitted applications to other festivals around the world, and I was still going like, I'm not sure I want people in Halifax where I live to see the film. But
we want to see it. So that's very exciting.
Well,
that's so awesome. And what I feel like, just hearing the response from Ugandans and people that loved it, or even just worked on it and became invested in it, is they related to the story, they related to the characters, they probably saw their family in the family that was featured. Did you pull, and I guess I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Are there characters from your family in the movie?
You know what? I did my best to not do that.
Okay. Geez, that would be really hard.
But then because I wanted it to be a film for all of Uganda.
Fair.
So
yeah.
we have the perspective of the writers. They went and spoke to other people. Again, I come into this story or this film with highlights. Like, this is what I remember about Christmas. These are the feelings I want us to evoke. But these are also the moments that I want highlighted. And the writers go and build a story around it.
Yeah.
Which, funny thing is, in the beginning I was like, this feels like we're looking at the lives of all of these people and there's very little Christmas.
Oh.
Again, because I wasn't like an experienced filmmaker.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, these are people who have lives, but they also happen to be celebrating Christmas in this moment.
So reality,
we get to see their lives. But back to your question, after the script was written and I was reviewing it and making changes and all of that stuff, I'm like, oh, I see family here. I see family here. Like, we have a very strong female character who is a mother, and I'm like, wow, I see a bit of my mother in this lady here. I see a bit of my sister in, so my siblings are definitely in there. Funny thing too is that one of the characters actually had the same name as a person who is very close to me.
No way.
And they were acting the same as this person. And I was like, we need to change this name.
That person, whoever that is,
If we keep it, then it's going to feel like I just carried this person's life into the film. And they wouldn't love it. I don't think it's not that it shows them in a not very nice way, but
just a little too on the nose, maybe
and too soon, because some of the themes that this character addresses are also like very recent events in this person's life.
Yeah, isn't that interesting that the name was the same?
It's not the same name.
Oh, I love stuff like that. It's like, if you could kind of dive into that a little bit and how that all came to be. That's amazing. And I love that people connected to it the way that you wanted to. I love that you were able to tell your story. What is next for you, Sharon, as a storyteller?
So I've been joking about being a one-hit wonder.
Oh my God.
Or the risk of just being that, because Ssekukkulu, A Ugandan Christmas, that film, that's the name of the film, is definitely a hit.
I just realized we never said the name of the film yet. Can you say that again?
Ssekukkulu, A Ugandan Christmas. So Ssekukkulu is Christmas in Uganda, which is one of so many languages spoken in Uganda.
Ssekukkulu.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got it right. Yes. So I'm not an entertainer. That's the thing. Although in my head I have comedy shows, like I do stand-up comedy in my head. But
listen, you never know.
You never know, yes. But I don't think I'll be a comedian or anything like that. But definitely, I hope.
Sorry, I'm interrupting you because I'm just imagining, like, I'm not an entertainer, but I do have stand-up comedy shows in my head.
Yeah, I'll run like a 10-minute show for myself in my head, and it's funny, it's hilarious for me. I haven't tested it for the rest of the world, but so I don't consider myself an entertainer, but I'm definitely looking forward to telling some stories of impact. I don't think that I will be led to a story just because it's going to be fun, although having spent the last 6 months diving deeper into filming Uganda and filming Africa generally, I realized that we tell the most gruesome stories, the saddest stories. And that's because those are the African stories that end up receiving awards at like film festivals.
Right.
So a part of me is going like, we should encourage storytelling that's focused on the joy, the African joy, and like the more complete lives of Africans. And that we shouldn't feel that every film or every story we tell should be aimed at educating or breaking down whatever it is you're trying to break down. Like, it's okay for us to tell a story that's just going to be enjoyable, that's just going to be fun. So they thought, but again, as a person, I need to be driven. I need a reason to be able to tell the story. So documentary stories, yes, 100% for sure. How and when all of that will happen, I don't know. I feel like I want to do so much. And there is very limited time. And sometimes just knowing that you want to do so much, and also that, most of the things you want to do are actual possibilities, it becomes hard to make the decision. You kind of have an opportunity paralysis. Yeah. But this is not the end. My company, the storytelling company, is called Engero. Engero, which also means stories in Uganda.
Okay.
Is definitely going to be telling some stories.
That's great. And to have it as that, not committed to it being, a film or being a documentary or being something, a book or whatever it is, it's stories.
Yes.
It can be what you choose it to be as you go through.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
That was the goal. And that's why I don't call it a filmmaking company. I call it a storytelling company. I don't call myself a filmmaker. I'm a storyteller. So I'm a storyteller, but I would rather listen to other people telling stories.
Okay.
And the one way to capture my attention, if you are public speaking or doing anything, is to say, let me tell you a story.
You're right.
If my brain was wandering anywhere, you have my full attention. So I was here, didn't know too many people, and it was like, there should be a place where, people go and tell stories.
Yeah.
And so I found, and can I say the name?
Oh, sure.
The thing that I found. So I found More Mondays, which is, it happens in different locations around the world.
Yeah.
But people basically come together at like a restaurant or a coffee shop or a bar. And then 4 or 5 people will get up and tell their stories or tell a story from their lives. Yeah. And the rules are very simple. Do not teach, do not preach, do not sell.
Okay.
So
wow, yeah.
Just telling
You've got me hooked on that.
Yeah, you're just telling events as they happen. So I went to More Mondays once, and the first time actually that I went to by myself and sat with some ladies. It turned out those ladies were close friends to the organizer. And the next More Mondays, I was on stage
That's so
telling,
awesome.
telling this story. And everything that's happened in my life after that, I can link back to that day. Actually, a simple thing that I can tell right now is one of the requirements if you're going to speak is they tell you to post on social media, to tell your friends and family and everybody that you're speaking, so that you have people coming to support you.
Right.
The organizers will market, but also they rely on the speakers to bring people in. Yeah. And so I posted on Facebook. And I had so many likes, hundreds of likes and comments, and people were like, "This is wonderful, this is great."
Yeah.
And then on the day I had just one friend.
The joys of social media.
Well, the thing is that all of these people who were liking and commenting were in Uganda.
Of course, yeah. So no offense, they're not going to be able to just fly to Halifax.
But I was looking at all of this and having, a laugh about it before the event, because I was like, the organizer must feel like so many people are coming to this event. But yeah, only one friend. So I'm always looking for, opportunities to listen to people's stories. Once in a while, just tell my own.
Yes, exactly. And through listening, you're able to tell other people's stories. Like you're still a storyteller as a listener in my mind.
Absolutely. And I have one rule around that. If I'm going to tell anyone story, and this I built, or this is a decision I made when I worked in international development as a communications person. So when you're in that space, the best story is the story that raises the most money. And sometimes the storytellers do not care how the story they're telling impacts the person that they're talking about.
Okay.
And so that's actually something I've been thinking about a lot. My master's final project, my thesis was about that, which I haven't looked at the remarks from my professor. It's been how many years? I don't know.
I was going to ask.
Because I struggle with, but I passed. I graduated Valedictorian, by the way. So I think
which school was it that you?
Mount Saint Vincent.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. My guiding principle when I tell another person's story is to tell it my favorite.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah, which then means that if I can enable them to tell their own story, I will enable them rather than tell it. But if I have to tell it, then I have to tell it as closely to the way that they would tell it as possible.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's so important. And I'm so curious, I'm veering off a little bit, but I'm curious just because of two key things that you've talked about so far is your belief in spirituality or like the universe kind of looking out for you. Like the two very clear moments are, of course, being in that Uber and then also looking up that group where you could go and speak and tell your story. Do you believe that in some way, maybe the next thing that's going to happen is just going to sort of happen or come into your life on its own? Or do you feel, what's your connection with that? It's a big one.
All of my life, I'll tell you this, everything that I've worked on has happened in like the same way.
Yeah.
I'm open to possibilities.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I'm like a child inside. I trust a lot. People think that I trust a lot.
Yeah.
I believe in radical trust, which is why I would decide to work with a Uber person. I don't think people have to earn my trust. You have my trust.
Yeah.
But you can lose it. And I think that's the side that people who think I overtrust don't realize.
Right.
Because they think like you're just going blindly and forever. But it's not blind. It's actually a very conscious decision. It's a choice that you don't have to earn it. You have it. So that's one of the principles that I live by. I think that people have good intention. It doesn't mean that I don't think that there are people with bad intentions, but I would rather believe that people have good intentions rather than be cautious all the time or worried or scared. And then I believe there's a lot of good in this world. I was also raised Christian. My mom was Christian. My family is Christian. So I believe that there's a power that's above me that watches over me, takes care of me.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And I got that sense because of some of the things that you had mentioned and that have sort of, I don't want to say happened to you because I feel like that feels a little too passive, but I do feel like there is agreed. There's somebody kind of, everything, I hate to say everything happens for a reason because I don't believe that in every aspect of our lives, but I do believe that in some capacity.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah. So what I will add to that though is that I think I'm growing older now and realizing that I need to be a bit more careful, not careful about people, but to be more organized. Like think about my financial situation a bit more than I did before.
Yeah.
So that's the place that I'm going to that I hate.
You want to be open to the possibility, but you also need to be practical about.
Yeah. 22-year-old me would now be fully working on film, but now I'm maintaining my full-time job while also kind of dipping my feet slightly into film. I have a story of a younger me that can be wild as well. I'll tell it if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So
you have to now.
I worked full time in communications. Yeah. My job, by the way, which was also a whole different miracle, because it required like a master's degree in communications, postgraduate diploma in management, and so many years of management experience. And I went in as a final year student.
And you got it.
And I got it.
Okay.
And I did it. But there were events that led to it, to me becoming a permanent employee in the organization. But anyways, because my brain is so curious, I always want to see what's beyond me. If something looks too easy, I'm not inspired to do it. For sure.
Not challenging you.
And it's not
the right way.
It's not a choice I make. It just happens that way. So I did that job for a little bit. And then got so used to it and I needed something. And I went to China for the first time because I wanted to start a business.
Okay, I need to know how old you are at this point because you said you're just out of grad school.
Early 20s.
Early 20s,
no,
okay.
Out of my bachelor's degree.
Oh, bachelor's.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not even in Canada.
Gotcha.
I'm in Uganda.
Yes.
And I did some research online. I had my tiny little notebook that had the names of the streets I wanted to go to, the hotel I wanted to stay
My
at.
hands are clear. There's just the thought of that for me traveling on my own and not really having a plan scares me. Anyway.
Well, it gets better.
Okay.
So my flight was delayed and I ended up landing at about 3 a.m. So I'm in a new country, 3 a.m. It's dark outside.
Yeah.
And I decided, well, I'm going to just spend some time inside the airport, wait for daylight before I can step out. And then a few minutes in, airport security come and they're asking everybody to go up. Because it's a very busy airport. They can't let people hang around because more people are coming in.
Yeah.
So I had to step out of a building and it's dark and there are all these taxi drivers coming to me saying things like didn't understand at all. And I couldn't speak to them. I didn't get what they were saying. But then there was a little van which had people going to a hotel. And so this guy comes to me and he says, are you going to this hotel? And I say, no, but this is the hotel I'm going to. He says, I don't know what that hotel is. I don't know that hotel, but the driver of the van is Chinese. Let's go in and I'll ask him. So I go into the van. There are other people in the van who had just landed, going to the same hotel. And so the gentleman asked the driver, and the driver also didn't know that hotel. And so they're like, let's just take you to this hotel where everybody's going, you'll be fine. And so again, because I don't have a booking or anything, I'm at the back of the line. And when the lady in front of me gets to the front, they tell her, we're out of rooms. We just have one suite left. So she turns around, she looks at me, and I know exactly what she means. So I was like, okay. So I share.
Oh my
gosh. I share a suite. I was like 22.
Right.
23.
Yeah. I
share a suite with this lady who I had just met in the van, who I didn't even talk to in the van. I promised myself I was gonna go to my hotel the next day. I didn't. I'm trying to get into like taxis and they're all just speeding by because they didn't understand what I was saying. Right. So it's in that moment that I realized that all the research I had done was in English. And in the English alphabet. Right. And nobody got it. So it was all useless, all pointless. Oh and so I'm in a new country by myself. I needed to figure out everything.
And start from scratch, basically.
Yeah.
How long did you do it?
I was there about 3 weeks.
Okay.
And then I went home with the business.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
I went home with the business. Yeah.
Yeah, that is
but
so great.
Right now I find it harder to just pack my bags and go to a country that I haven't been before because I want to figure things out a bit more than I would have at 20.
Right. And to be fair, you've done that, right? And you had that experience and
I mean, when I met the Uber driver, I was coming from a country that I was going to the first time without any plans. Right. And then the decision to go to the country the day before I flew there.
Good things happen when you do that, Sharon. Yeah. So I know next steps, you never know. The next time you feel the impulse to do that, we'll probably, that's right. It's probably for a reason. Yeah. Well, that's so great. Mm-hmm. Listen, I have so enjoyed our conversation. I feel like I need to have a separate conversation to talk about the dress and your business that you created in 3 weeks in China. But thank you so much you are a storyteller and I just can't wait to see what you're up to next. So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me and for being my first podcast host, taking me onto the show.
Hey, more to come.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again to Sharon for overthinking with me about storytelling. I feel like I say this all the time, but that conversation could have gone on for a very long time. So thank you for listening. Thanks to Sharon. And thanks again to the Mental Health Foundation of Nova Scotia for supporting this podcast.